All right, all right. Peace and blessings. I am Chi Vital, aka King Chi, and it looks like I am back with another tool for your toolkits in order to create your lives, but also to continue this conversation that started yesterday. So, shouts out to all of the HOC and the Cult College gang. Very gang. What's going on, my luminaries? I'll give you just a moment. I just shared the link for this live. I absolutely was going to go live on Facebook, but I figured, why not invite you all over here to my house? No, I don't live in my car, but the house of Chi. What's up, Nikki? Fairy Gang? What up? So, as you tune in, like and share this video because it's going to be a fun conversation. It was kind of sporadic, or random to say the least. The conversation or the question about money and religion and poor people, right? Pardon me. And I'm like, why don't we discuss it? Because we are definitely in this space where we need to know what is the matter with us. Okay? Before we get all the way to our clear slate. And the conversations of money always, always bring people out. It is like such a trigger, rightfully so, because we have to live, don't we? We gotta live, gotta eat, gotta keep a roof over our heads. So, gotta take people on dates and such. Or we gotta have $100 cigars. So crazy, so crazy. All right, so as y'all tune in, you know what, for this one in particular, because I said I want to see them black dots, right? I want to see them black dots or them new moons, because we're moving into manifesting some of those things that you started with then during the new moon. Um, but I want to see that, and I want to see some money bags. I tried to put the title and such where it would reflect what we're gonna discuss, but YouTube just was tripping today for me. Okay, peace, Nati. What up? What up? What up? And I'm looking forward to a dialogue. All right, I'm looking forward to a back and forth and some of your beliefs around what this could possibly be. On my Facebook page, for those of you who are my friend on Facebook, hi, you can add me, Shivata. I'm there. Okay, shouts out to Ajala, little commercial too. Ajala Arts Foundation. Um, that is part of the family, the South Florida family. Okay, so the question was like, you and I know that there are many different gods of wealth. We've practiced it. We've worked with some of them, not all of them. We've worked with some of them, and bring this back to the fact that this is the house of Jesus, the church. This is the church. And I'll get to one of the comments there. With all of these gods of wealth and all of these really, really, really religious people, why does it seem that there are so many poor religious people? It was just a random thought. I didn't even think like, it was still like a little thorn in some people's sides. But people have really strong opinions about this in regards to why that is. And so I looked through the comments and I didn't acknowledge everything, but I acknowledged some things because to me, They either stimulated some more thought, which is my job, y'all. I'm here to be the drill sergeant, which means for you to go deeper. Go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. I want you to go deep, deep. I love that. That's why. Some of them have some really thought-provoking things to add. And some of the thoughts, not surprising to me, came back to some of the same doctrine or beliefs that I spoke to yesterday. Kind of going back to the statement of like somebody else has power over the experience. All right. So I'm a detailed type of individual, and I'm very intentional about words. So the question was about money and religious people and being poor. I use the word wealth, to be honest. I use the word wealth. So I heard some of these, and they were um, some people are poor in possession, but they are rich in spirit. And as I go through these, I actually want you to take note of them, because when you start to develop your new matrix, I want you to be very clear about that aspect of where you reside when it comes to financial growth, sustainability, literacy, the emotions around it, where you learned it from, what your experience has been, and why it needs to absolutely be a part of your vision. Okay? We have a history here. We have a history of doing rituals to bring about auspiciousness in regards to the bank account, opportunities, love, relationships, property, business growth, all the above. These are areas of real life outcomes, not just feeling good emotionally, not um, not anything that's just small and just a happenstance. We're looking for something that's sustainable. All right. So here we go. In the comments, some people said that the matter of being poor is due to poor choices. Some people said that when people start to really make good money, I'm paraphrasing, they stop believing in their faith and trusting more than money. I'm going to speak to that. Actually, I'll speak to it now. One of the things about spirituality and its relationship to money that is going to be very useful moving forward is going to be the fact that the numbers around money, they don't lie. They either are or they are not. And spiritually speaking, when we look to manifest what it is that we desire, existing from a plane of it is or it is not is more in alignment with how money exists. right? Like when you go to the store with your card or your cash in your hand, when you're making the transaction, whatever the item costs is whatever you're going to need to pay for it. It either is or it is not. If there's not a number amount to support the purchase won't go through. Okay? And so aligning yourself with that level of absoluteness is more in alignment with how money vibrates. Money vibrates in a currency and a flow, but where it is in its snapshot is definite. All right. So what they say, people lie, numbers don't. There is a lot of truth to that. Okay. When people start to accumulate funds, my question to you, because I have my own beliefs, but I'd love to have this dialogue, is that is it always true that their belief in whatever faith they're in diminishes? Does it really correlate to the amount of money they have? Because faith in itself, I don't know whether the person was talking about a religious belief or not, but faith in itself, faith in oneself, absolutely has to stay consistent in order for the money to grow. Because without faith, no one acts or takes action to do a certain thing if they don't believe that what they're doing is going to have a certain outcome, which in this case is a growth in money. We don't pay for marketing and ads if we don't believe that it's going to bring money. We don't um, put our money into idols, spiritual items, donations, and so forth if we don't believe that it's going to yield more money. Um, but when we find that certain acts of faith do not yield real physical money, is it wrong to eliminate those acts of faith? I don't think so. Press 1 in the chat if you agree that certain acts of faith, if they do not yield the outcomes that you're looking for, it's okay to drop them off. All right. So that's something for you to look at. Okay? If you're doing something, you consistent, because that's the other part, consistency. You don't just do something one time and then figure, okay, it's supposed to work. Consistency is key. Okay, every now and then you do something one time, it hits really big, and you're like, oh wow, that's great, and you don't realize that you're going to need to put in more energy to sustain that level of outcome. And the first time that you do something and it's successful, if you don't return and celebrate those successes, you absolutely lose energy behind the celebration and what it took to bring forth that outcome. So I always tell my clients who have been really successful and are going through this ebb and flow, which is a natural part of money, an ebb and flow, that they need to return to the space of celebrating the successes so that the money feels the appreciation. You continue to use these words that have meaning in regards to growth. Okay? So as you're developing your matrix, look at your relationship to your wins. Again, I'm telling you, go back to what has worked for you. Okay? Shouts out to Panera Bread. Look towards your wins and appreciate them by giving your attention to them and repeating them and creating a schedule in which you're going to be more consistent with that particular practice. Now, somebody mentioned the big old C word, along with all the other isms. I'm going to throw all the isms into the same bag. Capitalism, and that's a big C word, right? And all the colorful, conscious variations of that word, the system, and such. Yesterday, I got a lot of poo-poo mouth from me. I'm making up for it today. Sometimes my energy is just on one like that. So, oh well. Okay. I want to say this. Having some level of competition is absolutely a driving force towards perfection. If we could have more emotional intelligence around what we experience in the face of not having, or in the space of seeing someone else achieve something that we desire, we actually would have a better time with the experience of growth. Capitalism, some people are going to disagree with me. I don't care. Okay? If you disagree with me, I want to hear it. I want to hear what you got to say. I love colorful conversations. But capitalism gives us the opportunity to compete. What I find interesting is that if you feel defeated because someone or some entities have outsmarted the system to where there seems no way to go, you're cornered, you're checkmate, there's nowhere to go, you can't get to where they are, and now it's not fair. Here's the thing. To even believe in the concept of what's not fair, and to let that be a driving force, says that you must spend a lot of emotional energy in a space of envy and jealousy. And I say that because the moment we feel like something is not fair, like snapshot a moment in your life where you're like, this is not fair. Like, I've done all of the work that was asked of me, and John Smith over here has done half of their job, and they're making more money than me, and that's not fair. All right. You're looking at what that person is getting, and you're comparing what you're not getting. The amount of time that you stay in that space determines how quickly you can transmute that energy into personal will. And when we're talking about practicing magic, we're looking at wanting to see physical evidence of the power of our own will. You got me? That makes sense to you? The longer you sit still in a space of that's not fair, is the more you are inclined to lose personal power. This is what it is. And while some of the people watching might say, they want to push back, well, it's not so simple. It's not so linear. If I don't like it and then I leave the job, then I absolutely lose all my money and I have to start somewhere else, and that's not fair either. I find it interesting that we would choose to live a monotonous life of extreme anxiety and pressure, to overperform for underappreciation, rather than to choose a life of pressure that says, this is not adding up for me. I want to go for something else and I will absolutely create it. Not saying it's easy, but do we examine it? Because time and time again, I see really, really intelligent people who are super talented show up 110% for people, for organizations, for other people's dreams, and they're absolutely afraid of doing that for themselves, to see for themselves what it would look like to be the recipient of that kind of raw energy. And like I said before, if it didn't work, if what you're doing did not work for you up until this point, you have nothing to lose by changing it. And this brings us into a space of chaos on purpose. Let me continue. Someone mentioned that people have made a vow to poverty. I don't know who has done that. I don't know why anyone would do that. But I'm looking forward to seeing if anyone can explain that one to me. Carrying on. But if that does exist, okay, for those of you who are highly religious, and I think it's piety, like we talked about detachment, we talked about not desiring anything, that may be included in a vow of poverty. Okay. Next, we have the unhealthy. We have the financially illiterate. And we go on and on. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go. Because I want to know, after I finish talking about this, if you're ready to go back into the womb of your mothers to examine her wealth fabric. Because it can't be ignored. Remember that you came out of a matrix. And as a result, that's part of your makeup. So as tedious and how maybe sometimes it's uninteresting, you have to examine it. Okay? If you lack literacy around finances and you already said, okay, I claim this part of myself, then what can you do about that? Start watching things that teach you more about money. Actually look at your bank accounts. Start to organize and see, what are your spending habits? What are your emotions around spending? What are your emotions around saving? What are your emotions around investing? I say emotions because how you feel about something gives you a little more access to how the energy is going to move. Okay? Especially when you feel good and you feel safe, that usually comes from a sense of knowledge and knowing. Most people are uncomfortable with spaces that they're unsure about and it exists in the unknown. Alright? Also, some people like to get lost in the unknown, in the magical, as a form of escapism. And after you have a good ride, you come back and reality smacks you in the face. You realize that escapism is more of a suicidal pill. So it's best to go into these spaces of the unknown with more clarity. Alright? You want to go in with as much clarity as possible. As much as we run into the darkness to retrieve these very sacred gifts, to remove ignorance. We go into the darkness to remove ignorance. As we are removing the ignorance, we are moving towards illumination. Hence, we go through the darkness of the womb and the vaginal canal, and then we reach this new realm, which we're all existing in at this moment in time. So there is a relationship that must exist. We would not appreciate the sky if it were not for the constellations and the illumination of the planets there that give us access to manipulating certain outcomes in our lives, that give us guidance or actually govern the realities that we're living in. All right? So what do y'all think about that so far? Because honestly, what's the point? What's the point? Like, why show up? Why show up to learn magic? Why show up to learn aspects of spirituality? Why move forward to wanting to be initiated in things? What is the glitz and glamour about these things that require lots of energy, lots of time and study? And there's not necessarily a societal guarantee in what it is that you'll get from it. Why? Why do it? What do you have to offer to the space? What are you looking to extract from this space? And so while there were some other, that's a real question for y'all, so feel free to answer. Okay? You answer in the comments below. You answer in the live chat. It's definitely. Lastly, Two more things. One thing I always notice is that when I mention poor people, for whatever reason, there is a conscious person who brings the conversation to black and white. And call me delusional, but when I think about poor people, I don't think about my people as the poor people. It does not draw out of me a picture of black people because there are so many nations on this planet that are way poorer, and the colors are like the rainbow, whether you know it or not. Plus, I happen to have in my reality, by matter of choices, so many amazingly wealthy black people. So if you have that picture in your mind in regards to what wealth looks like, please go in and find yourself some pictures of people, not celebrities, okay? Because we are more than just rich celebrities. Those are like handpicked people. Find yourself images of real people that you have access to who are doing really well for themselves, and make that be a stamp in your psyche as a possibility for you, given the right choices of actions. Which brings me to this last piece, that folks, while they have access to beings of wealth, whether they can worship a god that brings wealth or work with a lesser energy that can create better and more increased transactions that equal to greater income. The biggest thing that is going to be necessary is going to be discipline. Discipline. So you can be as creative, eccentric, believe in God, don't believe in God, chaotic, or uh, organized. It will come down to discipline. It comes down to whether you feel like it or not. You're going to apply the necessary steps, action steps, in order to see the results at the end of the tunnel. And you're going to have to push. If you don't experience any push, then you won't experience any growth. You won't be able to birth anything new. So that is your next exploration into designing your motherboard, your star of wealth. Your star of wealth. Where is your star of wealth? And I'll get into that. But from a philosophical and a realistic place, go now, and look into the financial fabric of the matrix that you came from. All right? I'm looking forward to seeing more evidence of y'all doing this work Make sure y'all post in both groups. Shivatel, and I am out. Peace, love, and bliss.